Welcome back to Project 82, the SCP Remote Access Database. Which case file do you require?
Item number SCP-425. Object Class Euclid. SCP-425 is to be kept in a standard containment area lined with a Faraday cage. Most staff with a security rating above Level 2 are permitted to access SCP-425, the exception to this being staff who are born on days of the month that are multiples of 8. Example 8, 16, and 24. Staff who are born on these days have proven to be susceptible to the negative effects of SCP-425. SCP-425 appears to be a 1958 Felco Tandem Predicta television set. It was first reported in 1963 by the owner of the unit. Mrs. originally contacted the FBI regarding the SCP, stating that it had begun to behave erratically at certain times. She reported to the FBI that her son had begun having terrible nightmares and had scratched infinity equals 8 on the left side panel of the television set. Mrs. further reported that although she had unplugged the set, it continued to broadcast without power at certain times during the day. Embedded Agent became aware of the situation and brought SCP-425 to the Foundation. SCP-425 was brought in and studied for 6 weeks by SCP staff with no conclusive findings. It was initially classified as safe until the 24th of March 1963, when it turned on by itself and began broadcasting. Of the 5 staff that were in the room at the time, 4 experienced a shared vision of what they described as infinity. They also reported hearing an atonal sound that seemed to come from the walls. These 4 staff members, while somewhat alarmed by the experience, felt a general sense of well-being. They described the feeling as knowing there was something else out there beyond us. This description was repeated verbatim by these 4 staff members, who were separated and interviewed immediately after the event. They were given no time to speak to each other prior to the interview. The 5th staff member, Subject 0, provided a differing account of the experience. Subject 0 described a vision of moving extremely quickly through space to the event horizon of a black hole. The vision then took Subject 0 into and through the black hole, at which time he experienced a crushing sense of oblivion. Subject 0 also described an atonal noise, but reported hearing whispering beyond the noise. Subject 0 was not able to interpret the whispering, but was sure that it was not English nor any other human language. Subject 0 was extremely shaken by this vision and the whispering, and reported recurring nightmares for weeks following the event. Extensive psychotherapy assisted Subject 0 to some degree, but he would report having nightmares at least once a month. He also reported that he no longer took comfort in the company of others and felt lonely even with groups of friends. SCP-425 was classed as Euclid at this juncture. Further study revealed that on the 8th, 16th, and 24th of each month, SCP-425 broadcasts for a period of 8 minutes at some time in the evening, generally between 2000 and 2324. That's about 8 p.m. to nearly 11:30 D665790. It will broadcast only once during this time. Early study by volunteer staff members resulted in mixed experience. 5 staff were placed in the room containing SCP-425 and were asked to watch to see the results. It took fully 6 months of testing to determine that subjects who were born on the specified dates were susceptible to the negative experience stemming from SCP-425. Of the 23 subjects who experienced the Oblivion vision, 17 had results mirroring those of Subject 0, 4 requested reclassification and amnesia treatment, 1 left the site containing SCP-425 and was never seen again, and 1 reported no ill effects. See addendum. At this point, SCP-425 was placed in a Faraday cage, and no staff member born on one of the above noted days has been permitted to access it. While in its enclosure, SCP-425 will turn itself on but will not broadcast. It is assumed that the broadcasts are non-terrestrial in origin, but efforts to pinpoint the source of the transmission have proven fruitless. Addendum. On the 8th of August 1971, staff member had what was described as a grand mal seizure in the staff canteen. Medical scans showed that Mrs. brain had a massive lesion in the shape of a nonagon in her parietal lobe. She was otherwise fit and there was no evidence as to how she suffered this injury. Mrs. was placed under medical observation. On the 16th of August 1971, Mrs. began to speak in an unknown language for a period of 8 minutes. When questioned, she was unable to explain why or what she said. On the 24th of August 1971, Mrs. left her room in the medical wing, walked to the nearest blackboard, and drew an extensive and impressive astronomical map of an unknown region of space. After she completed the map, she collapsed to the floor and died. Autopsy results showed no biological reason for that, and study of her parietal lobe showed that the nonagonal lesion had ceased to exist.
Case file ends. Which case file do you require?
Item number SCP-431. Object Class Euclid. Backup copies of all Foundation documents are to be kept at Site. Any documents and/or photographs SCP-431 is found in are to be stored in Site local database and replaced with their backup copy. Any personnel who report recalling SCP-431 are to be immediately questioned. Office-25 is to be inspected daily for any new objects. Foundation archives are to be monitored for any changes or new documents regarding SCP-431. SCP-431 is the designation given to Dr. Gideon, a man who appears to have been a Foundation researcher. Due to the condition of records at present, it is not known if Gideon is his real name. The existence of SCP-431 was first discovered during what appeared to be an attempt to hack the Foundation database. A number of documents were altered to state that a scientist referred to as Dr. Gideon was involved in researching several SCP objects. However, it was determined that the documents in question were not being accessed at the time they were modified. Since the initial event, references to a Dr. Gideon have appeared in additional documents. Every time a document has been altered, it has been shown that it was not in use at the time of modification. Several new documents also appeared, a number of which are SCP documentation of items that the Foundation does not currently possess, including and one item, which is known to be currently in the possession of Marshall Carter and Dark Limited. A number of objects have also been discovered in Office-25, which is currently vacant. It is not known when items began to appear inside it, as the office was only investigated when a Dr. Gideon name placard appeared on the door. Documents have been recovered from the office, including a photograph, Document 431, which is believed to depict Dr. Gideon alongside 3 known Foundation personnel. Security camera tapes dated show a man who is believed to be Dr. Gideon conversing with a number of researchers. None of the researchers report ever working with anyone named Gideon, and none show signs consistent with the administration of amnestics. No information concerning Dr. Gideon's hiring by the Foundation exists, nor does any documentation indicating that Dr. Gideon was either fired, terminated, or quit. One document recovered from Office-25 appears to have his fingerprints on it, as the fingerprints have no match within the Foundation's or any government's fingerprint database. No government documentation regarding anyone named Gideon matching the description of the individual in Document 431- exists, including birth, death, census, or tax information. By date, the last documents available presently state that Dr. Gideon was scheduled to oversee the neutralization of an SCP object. However, the document refers to the object being neutralized as SCP, a designation not currently in use. No documentation has appeared describing SCP.
Case file ends. Which case file do you require?
Item number SCP-442. Object Class Euclid. SCP-442 is to be kept away from its current owner in a secured container until being used for testing. The current owner must have a will leaving SCP-442 to a D-Class personnel. The owner is granted a suspension of termination. should the D-Class listed in the current owner's will be terminated or otherwise invalidated for ownership of SCP-442, a new will is to be written at the next available opportunity. SCP-442 is a gold-plated pocket watch 3 cm in diameter with hands showing the hour and minute. Along the edge of the watch, an inscription reads, "To my good friend, a helping hand." While no apparent seams allowing SCP-442 to be opened without damaging it have been found, scans of the interior of SCP-442 have revealed nothing unusual in its workings. As long as SCP-442 is wound, it will set itself to the correct time. Crossing time zones or winding SCP-442 while it displays an incorrect time results in SCP-442 making rapid motions to adjust itself. The owner of SCP-442 is granted intrinsic knowledge of the time and can recite the precise time to an arbitrary precision as long as SCP-442 is on his or her person. Additionally, the owner of SCP-442 will never be late as long as the watch remains wound and on their person. Attempts to force the owner to be late have never succeeded while SCP-442 is wound. When SCP-442 is left unwound or removed from the owner's person, the owner will be incapable of being on time. The severity of incidents causing this increase as SCP-442 is left unattended, invariably becoming fatal within a week. Ownership of SCP-442 passes through normal means and can be sold or gifted to another party. SCP-442 has never been left unowned. Death of the previous owner results in SCP-442 instantly transferring to a new owner. A will leaving SCP-442 to someone close to the previous owner upon their death has never felt to surface. Attempts to prevent a will from coming into being have met with the same failures as attempts to make the owner of SCP-442 late. The new owner is instantly aware of the existence of SCP-442 and is drawn to it, although the effects of owning the watch only manifest after initial contact with SCP-442. SCP-442 was brought into Foundation control by a junior technician working at Site-19 when he inherited it as a family heirloom. Superiors noticed an immediate change in work habits after he received SCP-442. Had a prior reputation for his lack of time management skills and was regularly written up for being late to his station. When questioned by Dr. showed SCP-442 to Dr. and said that it was a lucky charm. He then told Dr. pieces of family lore attached to SCP-442, which later experimentation would reveal to be mostly true. Testing was performed to confirm SCP status, after which its history of harmlessness was cited and was allowed to maintain possession of SCP-442 on the condition he willed it to the Foundation on his death. Was subject to observation and regular psychological evaluation during his possession of SCP-442, during which further effects of SCP-442 were discovered. Extended ownership of SCP-442 slowly rewrites the subject's personality. Within 2 years, regardless of previous attitude, the owner exhibits unusually high self-control and reacts to situations in a timely manner. His motor control increased dramatically during this period, scoring in the 99th percentile of every test at the 2-year mark. During this same time, the owner will become increasingly annoyed at tardiness. Broke ties with several friends over increasingly small infractions. After a decade of owning SCP-442, had completely changed. While displayed a level of professionalism commendable of any member of the SCP staff, his private life had suffered tremendously. Unable to tolerate tardiness, had pushed away all his friends and had been diagnosed with clinical depression. After committed suicide, O5- reported ownership and had it transferred to him. A D-Class personnel was then chosen for experimentation and given SCP-442.
Thank you for your participation in Project 82. Transmitting psychoanalytic data to Dr.